Just days after Washington and New Delhi struck a historic trade framework, the United States sealed a reciprocal trade agreement with Bangladesh, reducing its tariff on Bangladeshi exports to 19% and zero tariffs on certain textile and apparel goods made with US cotton or man-made fiber. Mohammad Yunus, chief advisor heading Bangladesh's interim government, called the pact a historically new level in bilateral economic ties, saying the US had committed to establishing a mechanism for certain textile and apparel goods from Bangladesh using US-produced inputs to receive zero reciprocal tariff in the US market. US Trade Representative Jamieson Greer described the deal as a meaningful step forward in opening markets, addressing trade barriers, and creating new opportunities for American exporters. For India's textile industry, the Bangladesh deal raises distinct competitive anxieties. Under the US-India framework, Indian garments and textiles still face an 18% tariff on exports to the US, even after recent tariff rollbacks. The difference in 1% is in India's favor, but there is more to the fine print. That's by way of Bangladesh that now has tariff-free access for qualifying textiles and apparel, a move critics in India say could divert US sourcing orders toward Dhaka instead of New Delhi. This is especially significant because Bangladesh's garment sector accounts for almost 80% of its export earnings and employs millions, making US market access existential to its economy. Greer's comments also underscore the US strategy: boost American exports and reduce barriers abroad, positioning these agreements as part of a broader push to open markets for US goods and services while tightening economic ties in South Asia. For India's textile exporters, the US-India trade framework still cuts punitive tariffs and opens more predictable market access after last year's steep levies. It also embeds principles on digital trade and industrial goods that could benefit Indian exporters long term. But Bangladesh now enjoys preferential textile access that India does not, at least in the near term, potentially shifting buyer preference in the massive US apparel market toward Dhaka. The economic tug-of-war plays out against complex political relations between India and Bangladesh, especially in the context of Hindu minority executions in Bangladesh since the fleeing of Sheikh Hasina and the Yunus-led interim government in charge. Historically, India and Bangladesh have shared deep cultural and economic ties, but also competitive pressures, especially in textiles and labor-intensive manufacturing. Bangladesh's accelerated push to lock in this deal comes amid a high-stakes election in Dhaka, intensifying questions over timing and long-term implications. In simple terms, India now has tariff relief broadly across goods under its US deal. But in a key export category like garments, Bangladesh may wield a temporary edge because of zero duty access tied to US inputs. For New Delhi, the challenge will be whether India's broader tariff and market opening gains can outweigh a textile access disadvantage that might reshape sourcing decisions in global value chains and put pressure on India's cotton and yarn exporters too.